So here's my 3D model. This is the current version. As you can see, I've got the Game Boy, and then there's a couple of blocks and some batteries, and they're all sitting on a partition or a section of a wooden floorboard. I've got to texturing the wooden floorboard just a little, and I've textured most of the Game Boy. There's a couple of things I'm going to update, but I'm not going to do those until I've finalised more of the placement and the lighting within the scene to know whether or not I should change those textures. I'm planning on doing some stuff with the wooden blocks and a spotlight and hopefully a flickering light or something to give it a little bit extra. Although I did have a lot of trouble with my original model. My original model I tried to UV unwrap a few weeks ago, and I'm not sure at what point I had broken geometry, but I quickly discovered that there wasn't really anything I could do. So let's have a look at my original model that I made for my first asset sheet here with the UV editor. Alright, so it's pretty ruined. I tried to fix it, but quickly discovered that fixing it was going to take longer than building the model from scratch. So I redid my model, and this is what I came up with. I actually think that this is a lot cleaner and a lot more suitable for what I'm doing than my last model. It has significantly less polygons on it. I've made sure that everything was created from a single mesh, so I don't have to deal with faces that don't exist. But I think I've got a lot of the details looking a lot nicer this time. And then when I go to UV unwrap, everything sits there quite nicely, and I don't have the janky mess that I did have with the first model. This is just me texturing. To make the textures, I basically just blocked out the colours and then added some shading with a few brushes. I'm just skipping through a recording of me texturing at the moment, attempting to draw some things. But then I applied that texture, and then this is what got just some simple painted looking colours. I've just got a nice hand painted Game Boy. I still want to work on the edges and some of that contouring, but for now I'm pretty happy with how it looks. So we'll look at some of the sketches. So I started off with just sketching in Photoshop. And you can see here I've got the Game Boy, some blocks, just a basic layout of what I wanted. Maybe I was thinking of carpet, but then quickly decided that was probably going to be too difficult. I tried to come back to it later, but it didn't really work. I moved on to a couple more ideas. So I've got a Game Boy with some sprites, my awful Mario drawing right there. And I thought maybe giving it some more, like having it be more of the center of attention. So there is just a simple one with a light flicker. And I was thinking maybe some 2D sprites coming out with a spotlight, like an abandoned Game Boy, and the sprites are climbing out. And then that's just a picture of the back, battery falling out, something like that, to give it a little bit more character. But there's spoiler down the bottom, but there's my final sketch is the one just down there. Alright, so this is my final sketch. This is the one that I based most of what I've been doing off. Basically got a Game Boy just in the center, showing it off on some blocks. And then I finally settled for a hard wooden floorboard down the bottom to set everything on. It would be interesting to do the bump map for that. And then here's some footage of me doing the modelling and testing for this. I skipped through it because I didn't want to show every little bit, but you can see me going through and editing these UV maps, creating the textures. I already had a floorboard texture that I'd made about a week or two ago, and I just adjusted that and made sure it fit all of the individual boards. There's some more fixing of UV maps. Finally got it to look nice. And then after that I started to add a few more details just to make sure I could actually get this to look good, and so you could get a feel for the sort of colour and everything. Once it was done, or mostly done, I created a bump map so I could get some of those nice wooden grain textures within. It was a bit too much at first, but I settled for a nice soft bump map in the end. Once that was all done, I could put the Game Boy in and then finally start to build the final model that you saw at the start of the video. So we'll have another look at that. Alright, so here's the final model, the current model. So it's basically the layout that I want. I kind of want a spotlight at the top to show it off, and I'm going to figure out how to do something with the Game Boy screen. But the floorboards I want to work on a little bit. I'm not quite happy with the angles on the Game Boy, but overall I'm fairly happy with the basic look at the moment. Thank you.